It's now time to move on over to Business World Business Class. This will be headed by a beautiful and a lovely young girl by the name of Miss Swetha Ramesh. On this set, Swetha ji has multiple business-related questions for a well-known entrepreneur, Mr. Sid Chowdhary. Come on close. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Swetha Ramesh, host of Business World Business Class. I have with me here today Mr. Sid Chowdhary, CEO and founder of Credence Management Solutions. How are you today?
I'm doing very well.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
Yeah. So, how long have you been in the United States?
Actually, it'll be, in a few weeks, it'll be 21 years.
Wow, that's a long time. Yeah, it's a lot of time. So, what year did you start your company?
We started the company at the end of 2007, and it was a very interesting year for us because the country was headed and the global economy was headed in a recession, and we were expecting our first daughter, Maya, my wife had decided to stay home. So we had gone from 2 income, no kids to no income, a single kid, and I've decided that it was the right time to start a company because I've always viewed entrepreneurship as the lowest risk option.
Yeah, that seems interesting because it seemed like such a risky time, but for you this was something that was low risk.
It was, and I have always viewed entrepreneurship as the ability to control one's future or career, and during uncertain economic times I was convinced it was the right time to launch the company, and most great companies have been launched during poor economic times, and I'm thankful my instincts have been correct, for we are fortunate to be named among the fastest growing companies for the last 5 years.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. So what made you want to become an entrepreneur? You know, you mentioned that you thought this is your ability to control your own destiny, but was that always the path you wanted for yourself?
Absolutely, and I think that that's a path that I recommend to everyone, especially our younger generation, the ability to do what they're passionate about, to work hard against their goals, and set their own standards for how they want to achieve their own success.
Yeah, that's great. So in starting your company, what was the process that you took starting your company? How did you build it up from the roots?
So entrepreneurship for me is the art of, or the discipline of, deliberate risk-taking. And to do that, you have to really understand business and all aspects of business. And one of the things I did myself and I advise other people is that always look at your job as a stepping stone towards someday leading a large company or starting your own company. So although I started the company as employee number 1 or the founder, I was very confident of our business model. And we also had, we served the US government across a lot of mission critical items. And we knew that the time was right for us to be successful because in a tough economy, the companies that have a clear value proposition have the ability to be successful.
Yeah.
And that was us.
Okay. So would you be able to tell me a little bit more about what Credence does? Absolutely.
So in a nutshell, Credence provides technology management and engineering services to US government across defense and national security initiatives. And what we do is we allow our government to do things more efficiently and cost effectively. And again, in times of decreased our fiscal deficits, the value we provide is viewed very highly by the government customers. And it's also a great way of making sure that we are getting a high return on investment on what is our taxpayer money.
Yeah, that's always important, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So as an entrepreneur, what's your social impact? How do you give back to the community?
So we define success or our success in 2 ways. One is the impact that we make on our customers, which is the US government, and by extension, the services that the government provides to our citizens. But additionally, we also define success through the impact we make in our communities. And in each of our individual journeys, our communities have played a big role. And as we are successful, it's important to give back. I come from a fairly disadvantaged area of India, and my father passed away when I was young. So my goal is to help other disadvantaged and underrepresented kids around the world, both in India as well as right here in Northern Virginia.
That's a great goal. Yeah. So you talked a little bit about your childhood. Growing up in India, you know, did your parents always encourage your entrepreneurial journey? Was that something that your family wanted for you, or was that more of you trying something else?
Actually, since after my father passed away at a young age, my mother had to work very hard to make ends meet and raise me and my two sisters. So I knew from an early age the value of hard work and ability to succeed by working hard. So entrepreneurship is just an extension where you have big goals for yourself, you are willing to work hard, and you are successful. And and while my mother, because my dad passed away, my mother didn't explicitly encourage entrepreneurship. She's always encouraged me to be the best I can be.
Yeah.
And for me, that meant coming to the US, starting my own company, being successful, giving back to the community now.
So you kept those values of like hard work with you when you came to the United States.
Absolutely, and those are the things that has helped us, helped me and us as Indian Americans and immigrants. The fact that you're willing to work hard, you are grateful for the opportunities that you get, and also be able to capitalize on the opportunity that you get it. And through the whole process, stay humble, because you know your roots, you know that things are a lot different back in your home country than you are in the US.
Yeah, I mean that's the American dream, right?
Absolutely.
To come here and make it big.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, do you think that the traditional Indian values generally translate pretty well to the U.S. workforce?
Actually, it does. And the Indian Americans are largely recognized for their diligence, for their hard work, their ethics. And those are things that are valued in across any culture, any country, and those are what allow us to be successful as professionals.
Yeah, I mean, first generation Indian immigrants are the fastest rising group of entrepreneurs in America today. So, I see how that could make sense. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So were there any personal obstacles or personal challenges you faced in starting your company?
Yeah, actually, if you think about the two most important things to be successful as an entrepreneur, it's having deep personal relationship that you can count on, and also having resources to launch your business. As someone who came here right after school, I actually had $50 when I landed in the US.
Wow.
And I didn't know a single person. So as you can imagine, I did not have the relationships or the resources.
Yeah.
And that story is not unusual for a lot of immigrants or Indian Americans who come here. What I did have is a degree from the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology, or IIT, and also the knowledge that working hard and applying my skills, I'll be able to be successful. So and the U.S. offers a very it's a very meritocracy society. So people who are able to work hard and provide value are able to be successful. So those disadvantages or obstacles can be overcome.
Why do you think is the reason that so many Indians don't really have the opportunity for the same amount of upward mobilization that they do in the United States back in India?
Actually, it's really the difference in where India is in terms of its economy and society, and where U.S. is. India, things are still very bureaucratic, things have changed a lot, but you can imagine when I was growing up 20, 30 years back, things were a lot different. And again, India is a big country, depends on which part of India you are, can make a big difference. I grew up in the Northeast, which is one of the most isolated, even today, and a violence-prone environment. And out there, day-to-day and survival is pretty much the focus for most people. Upward mobility and entrepreneurship are not things that people can even imagine, let alone strive for.
So is that the reason why you decided to come to the U.S.?
Yes, that and the ability to pursue my dreams.
Yeah. So if these trends keep continuing in first-generation Indian American success, what are the kind of political, social, economic implications that you think it holds for the future of America?
Actually, there are two different things to look at. One is Indian Americans, because of our success and our contribution to American society, are very well regarded in the country. In fact, in 2005, Congress had passed a House resolution recognizing the contribution of Indian Americans, and more specifically, the graduates of the IIT, of which I'm an alumni of, for contributions to U.S. economy.
Wow,
And
yeah.
each of us have a part in making sure that we build to that legacy and we contribute to society. On the flip side, as we are successful, we also have to remember that we owe back to the communities in which we live, also not only just in India, but also in the US. And as long as when we are successful and we are contributing back to our communities here, I think that our future is great.
So going back to your personal journey and your personal contribution to this legacy, what would you consider to be your big turning point in your company?
The big turning point in our company is when we had the belief that we don't have to rely on bigger companies to be successful. It actually came, 3 years into our growth. As a company, we have completed 8 years. So 5 years back, we realized that we don't have to rely on other companies to be successful. We can do it on our own. And since then, we have close to doubled every year for the last 5 years. And
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's great. Yeah.
and that is my message to all aspiring entrepreneurs, that have believe in yourself and have bold dreams, and you'll be able to achieve your goals.
Yeah. So if you could send a message to everybody, that would be the message, to aspire and keep pursuing your dreams and keep going forward. Would you say that you would encourage people to drop out of college to pursue their dreams? I know that's a current trend. A lot of people are going right to entrepreneurship.
So, it's all so if you look at entrepreneurship as the discipline of deliberate risk taking, it's really a question of risk. If you have an idea that can be successful without the benefit of a great education, then it may make sense. But overall, it always works well to stay in college, continue your education, finish your education, because that's where you can fall back to. Some of the great entrepreneurs, including many of my friends who have dropped out of college, run successful companies, have eventually gone back to college to complete their education, because at some point in your career, that does become important.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Yeah. I'm Swetha Ramesh, signing off on Business World, Business Class. Tune in next time at the same channel, the same month. Thank you for joining me.